You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Inside this week's episode of the show before the show from MILB.com. I got distracted reading a headline about something with the winter meetings coming up and completely forgot that I was supposed to be, professionally introing a podcast.
Do you want to share with the class, Tyler, what the interesting thing was?
Nah, it's whatever. Hey, hi, how are you? Hello. We had a little bit of a break. Welcome. Hi, I'm Tyler Mon. He's Sam Dykstra. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Tyler. It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to be talking with all of you. Sam, tell us about your Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving was good for me this year. It was, as longtime listeners might know, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but every year I do this race with my mom. It's not quite a turkey trot. We've never called it that, but other people probably call it that. It's this race that she's been doing forever and ever in Manchester, Connecticut, the Manchester Road Race. This was my mom's 46th year running it.
That is
I was
nuts.
told. Yeah, I was told she was pregnant with me when she ran it once. She was pregnant with my sister, had my sister 2 months later, and still ran it.
She ran it 7 months pregnant? That is amazing. Your mom is awesome. Yeah,
so nothing has been stopping my mom from ever doing this race. So we did that again this year. It was much warmer than last year. I'm happy to report. I thought my time was pretty good, only to find out that I was 3 minutes slower than last year. So A, it's good to actually train for races when you do them. And B, father time comes for us all, as it has come for me. But no, it was good.
As it has come for Sam, the youngest person on this podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. It's good. It's coming for you too, Tyler, if it hasn't already. Actually, look behind you.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
It came for me.
Yeah, you and Father Time are good friends at this point, old man. But yeah, so then we gathered at my aunt's house, and I got to see my niece and nephew the next day. They enjoyed Thanksgiving at my brother-in-law's family on the Cape. So it was fun to see that. And it's fun to see my nephew understand what all these holidays are now. He's 2 years old. He's a little older than 2. He's about 2.5. So he knows Christmas is around the corner. He knows Thanksgiving is coming. He's excited for the tree and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a fun time Thanksgiving this year. What about you, Tyler? What did you do?
It was good.
You had a much more lavish Thanksgiving than I did, I should say.
Yeah, well, I so ordinarily my personal Thanksgiving, I go to New York and we do it at my aunt's apartment on the Upper East Side. It's my favorite holiday. It always has been. I've done that my whole life. But now that I work 97 jobs, one of them is as a college basketball broadcaster, and we had a road trip to Northern California, me and the University of Denver basketball team, and so the team played in the Cable Car Classic at Santa Clara University, and one of the team managers is actually from that area, from Northern California. So his family had us over to his house, had it catered. It was amazing. There were 45 people there, but the food was awesome. It was a little bit chillier than I think anybody was anticipating, and it was kind of funny because our guys, these big tough college athletes, are walking around wrapped in blankets. I was we're not on the frontier. This isn't like a January in Wyoming in 1859, but we were hanging out outside for most of the meal, and then got to hang out inside and watch a little bit of football that night. But it was good, and now we're 3 weeks away from Christmas. 3 weeks from today. It's absurd. 4 days from today, the winter meetings start, and we are going to talk about those as the MILB.com podcast gets rolling. Before we get to all of that, thanks for tuning in on this week's episode of the show before the show. You can find us at MILB.com/podcast on Apple Podcasts and Google Play and everywhere else you find your shows, and give us a rating and a review and a subscription. You can also get in touch with the show podcast at MILB.com. Sam's on Twitter at Sam Dykstra MILB. I am at Tyler Mon. And another thing that we want to remind you about, just announced more than 20 new minor league teams will join the Copa de la Diversión Chase in 2020. The Hispanic Fan Engagement Initiative, fresh off its second full season in 2019, celebrates the cultural contributions of Hispanic communities across over 90 minor league cities this year. Through culturally significant on-field identities, in-stadium accommodations and entertainment options, and community impact, Copa de la Diversión celebrates the Hispanic community whose love for the game of baseball has driven the game forward. Visit MILB.com/fans/Copa or follow minor league baseball on social media at MILB to find out more about each identity and the initiative. And with that, let's get started on Three Strikes for this week's episode of the show. We're going to kick things off with a story series that we have up on the site and concluding on the site very soon. The top 10 games in the 2019 minor league baseball season. It's hard to narrow it down to 10 because there are approximately a billion games played every minor league season. But number 9, just to give you an identity of this, or an idea of the identity of this list, number 9 is a game in which Lehigh Valley and Rochester combined for 15 home runs in a 20-18 Lehigh Valley win in 10 innings. That's number 9 on a list of the top 10.
Yeah, and I think Dylan Cousins actually complained about that.
He was not happy.
No, he was not happy. But also, like you said, Tyler, it's great that there are 8 games better than that because there are. I might have had that a little bit higher on my list because 15 homers is absolutely nuts.
Ridiculous.
And the fact that this didn't happen in a Lancaster or in a Albuquerque or somewhere in the PCL, it happened in the IL, was even more eye-opening. But the possibility for great games in minor league baseball is always there, just because there are so many games. Most full season teams are playing 140, and we've got 4 levels of those, and then you've got short season, and even a DSL team made this list. So there are endless possibilities. And when we look back on the year on the whole, I'm sure there's a game that many of you went to this year that you thought, hey, this was probably top 10 worthy. Maybe it was in another year, but this year was just so packed and dense with great performances, great games, that this is a kind of fun way of looking back on it. In the past, we've done game as a Milby. We did not do that this year. We're just rolling out our top 10, which I think is a little bit more fun in that we're not just highlighting one game, we're highlighting it as 10 times that many. But just to run through them real quick, just to give you guys the idea. Number 10 was Oklahoma City. Gavin Lux homered in his 5th straight game. He had 5 hits in that game. Kyle Garlick had 3 homers. So to put together, we put them at number 10. Lehigh Valley, Rochester, as Tyler already mentioned, is number 9. Number 8, Ian Anderson struck out 14 en route to throwing a no-hitter for AA Mississippi. Number 7, Lexington walked off for its 2nd straight South Atlantic League title. We love title games. Obviously, there's a trophy on the line. The fact that they walked off was really special. Number 6, Scranton Wilkes-Barre rallies for 8 runs in the 8th inning to win a tiebreaker game. If anybody was following that one was crazy. That one was a lot of fun to follow live for me. But yeah, they had to rally against Syracuse. They eventually came away 14-13. Eric Kratz, Kyle Higashioka, some of the heroes in that one. Number 5, the Dominican Summer League Yankees, the DSL Yankees that I already mentioned, set the minor league single game scoring record in a 38-2 win. That's number 5. If this happened in the majors, I don't think we would have ever stopped talking about it. DSL games can get kind of high scoring. They can be a little weird. 38-2 is obviously incredible, setting a minor league record. We put that at number 5. Number 4, AAA Reno had a bunch of really good bashers this year, but in one game in particular, Yosmani Tomas homered 4 times. Matt Caesar hit for the cycle. Put those together, they would be noteworthy separated, but in the same game is kind of incredible. Number 3, Taylor Trammell, who came over to the Padres from the Reds in a big midseason trade, hits the go-ahead grand slam in the 9th to give the Amarillo Sod Poodles a Texas League title. This is Amarillo's first year in existence. They win a title as a Padres affiliate. That Padres team was obviously loaded for a lot of the year. The fact that Trammell came over, hit a go-ahead grand slam in the 9th inning, was huge. Number 2, El Paso scores 10 runs in the 9th, including a walk-off slam for a record-breaking homer. That was a really big game. But the only thing that beat it was almost a similar comeback. but even tighter circumstances. We've already written about this before. Brian Stoltz did a feature on this game, looking back on it, which was a lot of fun. It'll be linked to in the top 10 piece. But Lake Elsinore was down to its final out and managed to rally
down to its final strike.
Yeah,
if
down
I
to its final
correctly.
strike. Was down 10 runs, rallied back, and eventually won in extra innings. It was an incredible game. All the details are in this story. It's so much fun to look at them one next to each other. I'm sure you guys at home might move things around. How can a 38-2 win be number 5? Again, the 4 things ahead of it were just even more insane at times. Yeah, and at higher levels and against tougher pitching and whatever. There's a lot of things we have to balance. But if you want a really fun way to look back at the 2019 season, I highly recommend this 10 Best Game series. We're also going to be doing one on individual performances next week, which will also be really cool. So keep an eye out for that. This is more team-based. It's combinations of stuff, like I said, Gavin Lux and Kyle Garlick, or Yasmani Tomas and Matt Caesar, even Ian Anderson, striking out 14, but I think he got some help in that game as well. Next week will be individual performance. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that. But do, in the meantime, read this piece currently on MILB.com.
Strike 2 this week. We continue to roll through park factors for minor league ballparks from coast to coast, so you can figure out which ones you want to yell #Coors about. The Class A levels at the full season ranks up. We discussed Class A Advanced a little bit. Full season Class A as well. In the Midwest League, the South Atlantic League, the 2 full season Class A levels. Sam, give us the rundown on this toolshed piece.
Yeah, so this will conclude it. I'm not going to do short season. If there's a real outcry for short season, maybe I'll do something in the new year on that, get that up. But I think as of right now, we have AAA, AA, Class A Advanced, and Class A park factors for 2019, but also the last 3 years. We've put up pieces on all of that. So the Class A will conclude that series with the full season leagues. It's funny you mentioned, screaming out Coors on Twitter, because the one that stood out to me here in the between the Midwest League and the South Atlantic League was Class A Asheville, which of course is a Rockies affiliate. Yeah, Coors, McCormick, as it were. But Asheville's McCormick Field is typically one of the most hitter-friendly bandboxes in all of minor league baseball, but especially for Class A, because Class A is actually a pretty fair level. It's not like Class A Advanced, where you have the Cal League, which is really hitter-friendly, or the FSL, which is really pitcher-friendly. You look at the averages for runs per game and hits per game and home runs per game. The Midwest and Sally leagues are actually right in the thick of it. They're not that far off either direction. So, you're usually going to go to a fairly fair league on the whole. But if you get to call Class A Asheville home and McCormick Field home, you're going to have a real big advantage if you're a hitter. In 70 games played in Asheville this year, there were 813 runs scored. Compare that to somewhere like Lakewood, which is the complete other end of the spectrum in the same league, where there were 458 runs scored. That's a difference of 355. Basically, if you were playing in Asheville this year, it was like playing in a PCL park. And that's compared to, some of these other really, really pitcher-friendly parks in that league. So somebody like Taryn Vavra, who's a third-round pick in 2018 out of the University of Minnesota, his splits were really extreme one way or the other. He hit 400 with a 640 slugging percentage at home while playing for Asheville this year. He hit 224 with a 316 slugging percentage playing on the road. These are things we have to consider when we're looking at prospect status. And, listen, you can only hit where you are, and it's great that he took advantage. And I'm sure, if he had to play somewhere a little bit more fair, like a Lexington or a Hagerstown or something like that, that his numbers at home would still be pretty good, and he would have finished pretty well off with good numbers, because the scouting report on him is that he's overall a pretty good hitter, and he's coming out of college playing at Class A. But it's still something I want people to look at with a little bit more of a discerning eye. That's why we write this. One other thing I want to point out in the Sally League before I talk about some stuff in the Midwest League, Augusta was the only team in Class A to move to a new stadium within our 3-year window. Their old place, they last played in 2017. That was extremely pitcher friendly. The home run factor there was 43. Again, 100 is average. So we're talking about 57 points below average for hitting homers. Now they moved up into their new stadium. We talked about that a bunch with Ben. Now that home run factor is up from 43 to 91. So it's still pitcher friendly, but it's not as pitcher friendly. It's not as much of a pitching haven, which is kind of what you want to see. You want these as close to 100 as you can get them, because we want pitchers and hitters to have the same, play on a fairly even playing field. Speaking of the Midwest League, this is actually pretty fair overall. No run total or run factor was above 113, and none was below 88. So it's all within a relatively decent window here. But Lansing, Fort Wayne, Burlington, these are some of the really hitter-friendly parks. Lake County it's a little bit hitter-friendly in terms of runs scored, but it's really hitter-friendly in terms of home runs. So the example I picked was Bo Naylor, who was a first-round pick in 2018. He opened up at Class A this year. Was pretty good at home. He had 7 of his 11 homers were hit at home. He had a 448 slugging percentage in 54 games played at home, 396 slugging percentage on the road, only 4 homers on the road. So somebody like Bo Naylor, you're going to have to keep a little bit of an eye on what happens when he moves to maybe a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly park. We'll have to see on that. Although I think Lynchburg is a little hitter-friendly in itself, so we'll see how that works out. But yeah, check out this piece. It ran this week. And as you're looking forward to 2020, a lot of 2019 first-round picks are getting their careers started at these parks. Okay, how do we have to start thinking about them, if they start to take off because they're playing at Nashville? Or what happens if they have to play at Great Lakes, which is incredibly pitcher-friendly? What happens then? All things to keep an eye on going forward. Somebody like Riley Green is going to play at West Michigan. West Michigan is an incredibly pitcher-friendly park. So if he doesn't take off in the way you may hope, Tigers fans just know that going in. So I think this is all useful information. It's a lot of fun to pour over, and I hope you all do that going from AAA all the way down to Class A.
And strike 3 this week. The winter meetings start in just 4 days. We are recording this on Wednesday the 4th. The minor league and major league baseball universes will collide in San Diego this year, and it's technically a minor league baseball event, which is something that we kind of always explain to people. So much gets done on the major league side, but the winter meetings are very minor league centric, and this year, obviously a lot to discuss. Sam, what are you most looking forward to? You'll be there at the winter meetings. We actually will get to hang out this weekend along with our buddy Josh Jackson. I'll be in Los Angeles for a basketball trip. San Diego is where the winter meetings will be. For those of you who don't know, those two cities, very close geographically. They will take like 12 hours to drive between.
That's why I'm taking the train.
What are you looking forward to this year?
Yeah, so the winter meetings actually the last couple of years have been, I won't say boring, from a transactional point of view. And we'll talk with Ben later about the business side of the winter meetings and how a lot is going on with teams on the minor league side. But in terms of what I'm there to cover is the major league side in a way, in that typically we think of the winter meetings as kind of a flashpoint for, hey, everybody's in one place. It's so much easier to make trades here. It's so much easier to have these in-person meetings. And that's kind of changed. And I think that's just because of the status of the game and also the status of our society. It's so much easier to trade offers via text, via email. You don't have to be in person to do these things anymore. There are all sorts of stories about clubs exchanging trade offers via emoji, or thumbs up, thumbs down, something like that. And so in terms of, hey, we're going to go to San Diego and I expect there to be 5 trades to happen there, I'm not going to put it that way. What I do think could happen, though, is free agent signings are picking up right now. Just today alone, we've had Cole Hamels officially signed with the Braves. As of right now, everybody is saying that Zach Wheeler is signing with the Phillies. We're waiting on official confirmation of that, but that looks like it's going to happen. The offseason is moving a lot quicker this year, which is great, and it seems like guys are getting paid and teams are getting the talent that they need. So I think that could pick up even more, because trade offers can be sent all the time, but I think free agent signings are much more personal. People like to meet in person and go over this face to face. So from my aspect, I'll almost be looking at it in terms of, okay, who gets signed while we're in San Diego, and what are the prospect ramifications of that? What are the trickle down effects? We know the Yankees are in the market for a starter. They're talking to Garrett Cole. They're talking to Steven Strasburg. Madison Bumgarner's still out there. If they go out and make a signing, what is the effect on somebody like Davy Garcia or all these arms they just added to their 40-man roster? How does that kind of trickle down? Yes, there are trades that could potentially be made. Mookie Betts looms large, obviously. Are the Red Sox going to trade him? Given their status right now, I almost hope that doesn't happen. They should run it back, keep one of the most talented players in the game if they can. But if they do trade him, that's going to be a farm system altering trade for sure for the Red Sox. And we know that they right now are probably a bottom 10 system in the game. So their farm system could use a refresh. Cleveland Indians, I think they made some gains in terms of their farm system. But if they choose to move Francisco Lindor, and that seems like much more likely than a Mookie Betts swap, that would also give their farm system a boost. There are some things we'll be keeping an eye on in terms of trades, but I think almost this year, given the last couple winter meetings in terms of trades and the lack thereof, I'm going to be keeping my eye more on free agent signings and what kind of ripple effects will those have, what will we be seeing for prospects, and what that means. And one of the great things about the winter meetings is all 30 managers are supposed to be there. Sometimes guys don't make it for various reasons. But it's a great time to ask, how do you foresee this playing out? How do you want to use this prospect? I remember last year talking to Andy Green about how are you going to make Fernando Tatis Jr. and Luis Urias work, and what their plans were there. And they said they were open to making Urias work at either short or second, when it seemed like obvious at the time that he was going to be a second baseman. Because of Tatis's injury, Urias ended up playing a lot more shortstop than we expected. So it's good to touch base with all those guys as well and talk about their major league future. So even if it's not an active winter meetings on the trade market, there's still going to be tons of other things to follow coming up here in San Diego. And I can't wait to get there and see it all happen and talk to you guys next week about what we've seen.
And with that, we will wrap up Three Strikes for this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. Coming up, Chicago Cubs organization and their third-ranked prospect, Brennen Davis, as the offseason hits December. That's next on The Show Before the Show.
We're joined this week on the Minor League Baseball podcast, The Show Before the Show, by number 3 Cubs prospect, Brennen Davis. Brennen, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on. So you're in your second offseason now. You were a 2018 draft pick taken in the second round out of your native Arizona. You've experienced one full season. Where are you kind of in the offseason? Where are you in your preparation? What are your days like right now in early December?
Okay. Yeah. So we had a strength camp not too long ago. So that was when we really started working out. Middle of October, I want to say, probably October 14th. So that was kind of the groundwork for the off season and what we were going to build off of moving forward. So strength wise, we're still trying to improve power numbers, get endurance, that stuff. I just recently started throwing. So starting my throwing program to get that going. That's going to be nice. And then I'm about 3 weeks into hitting a few times a week, just getting loose, getting ready for instructs in January.
Oh, right. So instructs are a little bit different this time. I know instructs typically used to happen at the end of the season. Now they've been moved to January. When you're specifically with that hitting work, what are you focusing on now? Because you are still a couple months away, but instructs right around the corner. What are you doing specifically in that hitting work to kind of improve and get where you need to be, even though we are, like I said, here in the kind of doldrums of December?
Yeah, so I have the luxury of living in Arizona, so our hitting coordinator does as well. So I've been working with him. Whenever I hit, I go hit at the complex, and he's given me stuff that he saw this season. I'm working on having more of a foundation that I can rely on that doesn't change as much. Having a he says it as a brake system, so I don't check swing as much because I don't have a lot in my scat load. But we're working on that, getting some cleaning up in the. Yeah, so he used some big words. It's I couldn't tell you the word right now, but I wrote it down, so don't worry.
It's okay.
There. The
it's
information's there.
I mean, that's
just,
kind of
having the.
Oh, go ahead.
Having the separation between my hips and my upper body to get my swing through and clean some stuff up.
Yeah, and you kind of get into an interesting thing there is that so much of the game is changing in terms of what they're throwing at young players like yourself in terms of information. I'm sure it's not stuff you were getting in high school, at least in terms of what terms they're even using. But what have the Cubs kind of done to help you take on, kind of the science aspect of hitting now and all the different ways to think about hitting other than, hey, just square yourself up and hit the ball as hard as you can?
Yeah, there are some big words involved with hitting now, but they do a really good job of simplifying it. They have a lot of PowerPoints and stuff like that they'll have us go through, so we learn what we're doing too. And we have hitting labs, and they'll walk us through the information and different stuff like that, so we know what's going on and it's not just kept to them. So that's a way that really helped me on the science side of hitting, because a few years ago when I was in high school, I didn't know any of this. God forbid all of it now. So it's really been a big change, but I'm happy where I'm at because it's just going to make the development better.
And what's the most surprising thing you've learned about your hitting style or what you needed to do to improve? What's taken you aback the most out of the information that you've gotten in the professional ranks?
So it used to be like hit the ball hard, didn't matter where it went in high school. I'm fast enough. I'll beat out a ground ball, or if I hit it in the air, it's going to be hit pretty far, but just try to square the ball up. But in professional baseball, you realize that you don't beat all those balls out anymore that you did in high school. And to do damage, you're going to have to you're going to have more of an approach. You can't just go up there looking to just tattoo a baseball. You have to know what the pitcher's trying to do to you. So just conceptually knowing my swing path now and what balls are the best true flight off of that path and are going to give me the best chance to be successful is what I think the biggest thing I've taken away from my pro ball hitting experience.
And let's go back and look back on this 2019 season for you. You opened up in extended spring training like a lot of high school players do, kind of expecting to be moved to short season. You eventually get bumped straight to Class A South Bend, play 50 games, and we'll get into why you were limited to 50 games in a little bit. But you hit 305, a 907 OPS, 8 homers, 4 stolen bases, kind of showing a well-rounded tool package there. When you look back on the 2019 season, now that we're a couple months removed, how do you kind of remember this first full season of yours and, finally getting yourself really involved into pro ball?
Yeah, I was happy about how my first full season went. It went a lot better than expected, honestly, because I did think that they were going to keep me on a slower path and send me to short season, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but I was happy to be able to prove that I was just as good, if not better, than a lot of the guys I played in low A. So besides the fluke injury hiccup thing that I really couldn't do to avoid, it was just a fluke, but I made the little adjustments I needed to throughout the season and showed myself that I was capable of really sticking to approach. And I think the results showed that.
And again, we'll get to the injuries here in a second, but what was your thought process going into extended, and when did you feel like, hey, I'm probably not going to be around here pretty long? Because they sent you up in May. Your first game with the South Bend Cubs was May 25th, so it wasn't even like you made it to the short season date when they moved you. They moved you up even a couple weeks before that. When did it feel like, hey, I am better than everybody here, and I think I could even prove myself up at the full season level?
Yeah, so I knew I had stuff to work on, and I was pretty aware of that, and I had talked to my coaches, and we set out a plan, stuff I needed to fix, stuff like adjustments I needed to make to be successful. I had a hard time kind of getting to the inside pitch and getting it elevated. And that was just something I just drilled in my early work, because one thing about extended is you hit a lot. So we had early work, and then we'd hit on the field and all that stuff. It's probably what was best for me, because it really gave me time to really hone in on what I needed to do with that pitch and get it in the air, and what I needed to be thinking about at my at-bats approach wise. And I think a big thing for me with this season was approach. I was just trying to do too much sometimes, when I just needed to let it happen, and it would be a lot more natural.
And now is the part where I'll bring up the injuries. You got to about middle of July, and just correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you got hit by a pitch while trying to bunt. You come back, you miss 2 weeks, you come back, you play 3 games, July 29th, 30th, 31st. You get hit in the hand again, basically in the same spot while trying to bunt. Then you're out for a month. You return on September 1st for South Bend's postseason run. You mentioned that they're fluke injuries, but just the mental side, never mind trying to come back from a finger injury. What is it like trying to square up in the box again, coming off a finger injury like that happens so fluky in those manners?
Yeah, so I had gotten hit in the hand twice from bunting, and then the one that put me out for a month was just a fastball up and in that I just couldn't pull my hands out of the way of. So it was tough, but it really didn't scare me. I'm pretty confident in the box. If you hit me, you hit me, which stinks because it can put you out, but it really didn't waver my approach and what I was trying to do in there. I was mad that it got to the point that it had where I had to miss time for it, but I never let it take me out of the game. Before most of the games, I would write a scouting report on the starting pitcher, so I was still in the game. It just helped me learn the different aspects of the game that I wouldn't have really been aware of if I was focusing on being ready to play. I wouldn't have looked into the spin rate and ball to strike percentages, just stuff like that, stuff that I could use in my future, something that I can continue to grow on. But coming back from the injury, I think what really helped me the most was I took about 2 weeks where I was standing in on bullpens, and that really helped me with my tracking. And I think that's why I was able to produce when I got back in the box and back in the lineup.
So when you mean following the tracking, I think everybody understands of, just standing in the box and not having to do anything, but at least you're seeing the pitches. But how did that manifest itself? What were you able to do afterwards that maybe you were seeing a little bit differently just because you were focused on that tracking so much?
Yeah, I picked up lefty changeups a lot better after that, because we had, I'm sure Braylon Marquez,
right.
big guy, seeing the fastball velo and then seeing his changeup after it. You're just able to pick up, just because it's such a big difference. A lot of the lefties where it's such a subtle difference and you can't really see, that's where it's a lot trickier. But with the big difference between his two pitches, it really helped me.
Yeah, if you had to pick somebody to watch bullpens out of, that's a pretty good one to pick. But as you mentioned, you came back relatively unaffected. You hit .310 during the postseason. I think your second game back, you were 3 for 3 with a homer. So obviously it didn't take you a long time. And let's get into that South Bend postseason run now. You guys didn't lose a game on the way to winning the Midwest League Championship, 7-0. Midwest League is a little weird for anybody out there who doesn't know. There's 3 rounds. There's so many teams that make the playoffs, but South Bend emerged victorious. What was that playoff run like, being around these guys who, you've known for at tops maybe 2 years now? And what do you guys think about how that kind of projects forward? How do you carry a postseason run like that, even though it's only 7 games, forward as you begin your careers?
Yeah, so this past postseason that I had with South Bend was some of the most fun I've had playing baseball yet. It was unbelievable. The energy in the clubhouse, everyone rooting for everyone. It was just something that a regular season game couldn't bring to the table. And just like, it's hard to explain like how much different the games are. Cause you think, oh, every game should be played the same, but just the energy that comes along with postseason is just makes the game so much more fun because everybody's competitive. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to see everybody do well. And it's just an awesome time. And I wasn't involved in the last year in Eugene, but our 2018 draft class is really onto something because they won it in Eugene. They won the Northwest.
Yeah, Northwest.
Northwest League Championship. I was still in the AZL, but all my boys that were in my draft class won that. And then we come into the Midwest League and win that one. Just exciting to see what we're going to do next.
No, for sure. So if anybody's out there, I don't know if bets are allowed on the Carolina League, but Myrtle Beach might be a good idea. Anybody out there who's into that kind of thing. But yeah, so how do you guys talk about that now? Like, coming off of that, whether you're gathering at the Arizona complex, whether you're in text groups or whatever, or coming together next month at Instructs, what does that do for you guys as a group, confidence-wise, just chat-wise, cohesive-wise? What is it like to be around a group that, for some, have won 2 championships? You're now coming off a championship. What is it just like, the growth of the team looking back on the spring to where you guys are now?
Yeah. It's kind of hard. Like, it's kind of hard to say, but winning makes bonds stronger because you get to experience all the happy times. You get to experience all the ups and downs throughout the season, and then being able to come out on top is just unbelievable. And just being around a group of guys that knows how to win and knows what it takes to win is what I enjoy most, because that's the ultimate goal. And when you surround yourself with guys like that, you're only going to better yourself.
And when you say a group that knows how to win, what does that mean exactly? What are the Cubs teaching you guys at the lower levels to set that foundation for winning? Because everybody wants to win, but to be on a run like this is pretty special. So what do you kind of attribute that to? What are you guys doing differently than other clubs, you think?
I think the Cubs have a very unselfish philosophy for hitting. A lot of guys worry about themselves, even in the postseason. Like, what am I going to do today? What am I like? It's a big I thing, but at the end of the day, it's how are you going to help the team win? And that's something that the Cubs preach. Whether it's being put in a position where you need to bunt a guy over, or whether you need to have a big hit and score a guy, our guys just know how to do that and have been very clutch the past few years. And I think that's something the Cubs they kind of preach it, because at the end of the day, that's what it takes. You gotta be unselfish to win championships.
And you're somebody who kind of knows a little something about winning championships. Going back in high school, your basketball team were state champs in Arizona, winning the 6A title there. How does this kind of compare? I mean, of all the games you have played in, you said this is some of the most exciting baseball you've played, but going back to basketball or some of the other sports you've played, how does a postseason run like this compare to some of your other experiences?
It's hard to compare them to the South Bend run. That was unreal. I would have to say that was the most fun I've had playing sports, was the South Bend playoffs. Just knowing your team is on a hot streak and you guys are just going to roll them. There's no better feeling, because we had a good basketball team. We were 30-1, but just being able to go in there and beat teams 3 times to move on was just awesome. There's no other words. It was just awesome. It was a great time.
I think that brings up a good point of the idea of a 3-game sweep is just so much more satisfying.
Yeah.
But so we mentioned basketball there. Like I said, one of the better players in Arizona. I know you had a potential chance to go to Miami for college. How close were you to choosing that when you had that offer coming in? How close do you think you were going to Miami before the Cubs came in and took you in the second round?
That's a good question. I would have to say that I was kind of torn because I was a good student in high school. Like, grades are important to me, and I wasn't a kid that was like, oh, like if I get any money in the draft, I'm gonna go sign, because the end goal is to have a good future, and I needed the Cubs to show me that I wasn't going to be just another guy in their organization, that they were going to invest in me and take some, like, give me assurance that they were going to help me be the best player I was going to be, and that their organization was going to be the best place for me to be, that I was going to develop better, because I was a little raw in high school and I needed a place where I was going to develop and learn baseball and just grow as a person and player. And I think the Cubs really, really hit it on the nail, and that's why I was so comfortable making my decision.
So what was their pitch exactly? What, other than money, because you signed for a 7-figure bonus, and I'm sure that makes a lot of conversations much easier. But when you do have this rubric of, I'm going to need to see this, this, and this, what was that conversation like, and how early in the process did you know, okay, yeah, they're going to do what I need them to do to make this leap right now?
Yeah, so I talked to them when they came out and did their home visits, and I had the honor of going to Wrigley for my pre-draft workout, and I got to talk to all the higher up guys, and they had showed me a PowerPoint on how they treat their minor leaguers, not too much different than their big leaguers, because at the end of the day, we're the foundation. Without us, like the minor league system, the big league team we are the feeder. It's kind of hard to explain, but get the gist of it.
Right.
But without us, because not a few years ago, but like, you always hear the rumors about minor leagues having bad food and not good conditions and stuff like that. And just the stuff that they showed me really made me and my mom have a comfortable feeling with the Cubs, more so than any of the other teams.
And one of the advantages of getting drafted to the Cubs is the Cubs facility for spring training, and for most other things, the AZL, extended spring training, all of that is in Arizona. It's in Mesa, not far from where you grew up and probably still live in Chandler. What kind of advantage was that like? I mean, when you said before, your off-season work, you can just go to the facility and hit now. What is it like being so close to that, and how much does the Cubs facility in Mesa now feel like home?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I'm 25 minutes from my mom's house from the Cubs facility. I live in Tempe now, which is 5 minutes away. So I made the trip even easier, but it's just awesome because all my friends are here in the off season. So when I'm not playing baseball, I can still hang out with my friends, still be a kid, and I can go see my mom whenever I want. I love my dog, so I go and see him all the time. So it just makes it so much easier than I know some people struggle with having to go to Florida for all the camps and go to Florida for spring training. It just made my decision a little easier, knowing that I'm not going to be too far.
And normally in the offseason, we talk to guys who go back home to California or Texas or Alabama or Florida or whatever. And we say, what's the first meal you get when you get home? You've never been that far except for that time in South Bend. But I'll ask it this way. When you do have all your friends coming in who are now Cubs prospects and they're coming back to Arizona, where's the first place you take them to be like, this is my home, this is the meal you need to have off the plane?
That's a good question. I would have to say me and my roommates are a fan of Steak 44. So it's a little high end, but that's not how we live, but we like to treat ourselves when we come back to town and like get together, just like a bonding experience. We don't do it. We do it like twice a year, maybe, when they come for strength camp and when they come for spring training. But it's a good time getting the guys together and going to get a nice meal.
Yeah, I was going to say, starting off strength camp with a steak, as long as it's a special event and every once in a while, I think that's a good way of doing things. Well, Brennen Davis,
you got to treat yourself.
Exactly. Very, very true. Brennen Davis, thank you so much for joining us. Congrats on all the success so far in your career, and good luck going forward, starting at Instructs and everything that's to come in the spring and going forward. We'll be watching closely. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We got some new names, some new identities, some stuff to discuss with Benjamin Hill, who joins the show this week. Ben, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was pretty good. Thank you for asking, Tyler. My Thanksgivings are always a bit of a gauntlet. My family is pretty close by to where I live in New York City. I grew up in Pennsylvania. My dad's in New Jersey. But, there's a lot of people to get to. So I did it all. Dad, mom, friends, all throughout the tri-state area. And I'm grateful to have pulled it off.
Well,
and I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, we did.
We did.
Sam's like, yeah, I did.
That was it was like a very Larry David way to answer. No, yeah, it's a good Thanksgiving. Well, let's dive right in. A couple of new identities to get to. The Worcester Baseball Club moving from Pawtucket, Rhode Island to Worcester, Massachusetts, which is a city name that is spelled with a whole bunch of unnecessary letters. They will be known as the Worcester Red Sox going into the 2020 season, which they'll actually play in Pawtucket. They will wrap up the franchise's lengthy stay at McCoy Stadium in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, before moving. And a new team. They will be known as the Woo Sox. They have a character swinging a baseball bat, which means that it was a grandiose designed identity. And give us the rundown on this one, Ben.
Yeah, well, Sam here sitting to my left is a Massachusetts guy. So ever since there's been the news that Pawtucket was relocating, I don't know how many times I've looked over to Sam in the office and been like, what is it? Worcester?
Worcester? Worcester sauce?
And then Sam makes that just
face.
infinitely annoyed, like, oh my goodness, how are you this dense? And then he says,
it's Worcester. And the amount of people who have tried to make Worcestershire sauce jokes is they should have just called it sauce. Does not know Central Massachusetts whatsoever.
Sam, not all of us know Central Massachusetts, okay?
Yeah.
But
I know.
But isn't that?
If only you could be so lucky.
That's not even. That's like a British sauce, right? Or is that actually from Massachusetts? Okay, good.
No. It's Worcestershire. I'm pretty sure is in the UK.
I would imagine.
But anyway, it's Worcester. The way I tell people to think about it is Wuster, Worcester.
Which would have made sense if it was spelled that way.
Sure. Well, other people have confused it with Worcester, which is I think a college, Wooster, which I will get into. There's some confusion with this identity and how that works. If you're from the area, you might call it Wista, which is Wistah. I do not do that. I don't have an accent like some of my Massachusetts fellow folks, but Worcester.
Worcester. Well, first of all, this is not a team that's debuting until 2021. 2020 will be the last season in the team's longtime current location of Pawtucket. And, this is the Pawtucket Red Sox, and they are changing their name. Really, technically, all they're changing is the name of the city they're playing in. Mm-hmm. The Pawtucket Red Sox are becoming the Worcester Red Sox. But just like the Pawtucket Red Sox were often called the Paw Sox, we're going to call this team will be referred to way more often than not as the Woo Sox. And that is, in their primary logo is not the full city name, but WOO, compound word, capital S, SOX. So while technically this team is the Red Sox, we shall know them as the Woo Sox. And, part of that is strictly pragmatic. As a Red Sox affiliate playing in Massachusetts, if you say I'm going to go to the Red Sox game tonight, that's not exactly a clear statement of which team you might be going to see. But if you say I'm going to see the Woo Sox, I'm going to check out the Woo Sox, I'm looking forward to the Woo Sox, that's different than the Red Sox. And so there is a whole branding around what is essentially a nickname, not the official name, but Woo Sox. And, I learned quite a lot about the city. This smiley face in the primary logo, as Tyler mentioned, swinging a bat and wearing, of course, Red Sox. His swing is modeled after, the most iconic Red Sox player, Ted Williams. Although Ted Williams did have like a torso.
Yes, he did.
And the reason it is this iconic happy face, when we first saw this logo in the office, we were just like, what? But, a little research and talking to the team, the iconic yellow, happy, smiley face logo was created in Worcester by a local advertising executive who, initially made it just for a local advertising campaign, but it served as the template. Yeah, Harvey Ball in 1963. It served as the template for, the ubiquitous smiley faces, that we've all seen, throughout the country. I believe, Sam has a squishy smiley face ball on his desk.
It just happened to work that way, but yes.
Yeah. So,
this
there's
also
a big
means
part.
that scene in Forrest Gump was not historically accurate.
Imagine everyone's shock at that.
Just want you all to be aware.
Yeah.
He did not
thanks.
invent it.
Yes.
Facts only on this podcast.
Yes,
That's what we do.
Facts only. So that's the main thing. They're the Woo Sox. And, I talked to Jason Klein from Brandios, who designed the logo, and he went way into, kind of what are we trying to represent here? Is it like the sound an owl makes? Is it the sound that the fans make? Is there a nod to, literally wooing someone the way that Worcester wooed the team from Pawtucket? There's a lot of kind of alternate meanings to get into, but ultimately they kept it fairly simple and have this primary logo, the smiley face swinging a bat. They will often be referred to as the Woo Sox. I was told that their kind of font and color aesthetic kind of speaks to the town's industrial past, a little gritty, but there's certainly still a Boston Red Sox aesthetic with the whole look as well, I would say. Oh, and yes, Worcester is the heart of the Commonwealth. Central Massachusetts, the heart of the Commonwealth. So there's a W logo in which the midsection of the W is kind of intertwined into a heart. And that speaks again to the heart of the Commonwealth, as well as, the love you may feel for someone when you were trying to woo them.
One thing that I find really interesting about this, there are two different W logos. There's a very Boston Red Sox looking logo with the, I wish I knew what the terminology for this style of lettering that the Red Sox actually use is, but it's got the little bones off of the sides of the letters. And then there's the other W with the heart in the middle of it. And I was looking at this graphic that we have made up in which they have 7 hats, 6 of which have W's on them. And I was like, how are these hats any different? And then notice that there's 2 different W logos. Everything's falling around in my house.
No, I just took that as you making a great point and then being like,
throwing things around.
Nailed it. Yeah.
But yeah, I find that interesting.
Okay, good.
I think it's just all the variations that they want to go with. And when you talk to them, did they give any indication on like when they will go with the heart-shaped W versus the standard Red Sox W there, or is this just an opportunity to sell more hats? I mean, why make that difference?
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I'm sure merchandise sales has something to do with it. I don't know how it will all shake out in terms of home and road and alternates in a way in terms of what hat they will wear when. But as you said, with minor variations, there are 6 different hats with the W, comprising 2 different W logos, as well as a hat that features the aforementioned smiley face swinging the bat on the hat. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. Also, keep in mind, as I mentioned before, we still have a whole nother year at Pawtucket. So it's interesting times this year saying goodbye to Pawtucket while this Worcester is just looming there, already branded, and the stadium's, really coming together. So it'll be tough. And Pawtucket is essentially in the same market, broadly speaking, as Worcester. And I know they want to, the team's front office wants Rhode Islanders to come to games in Worcester, but I think there's going to be some pretty hard feelings in Pawtucket, and it might take a little time for them to get over the team leaving, McCoy Stadium, where that has been affiliated with the Red Sox, that has had a Red Sox affiliated team since 1970 and AAA since 1973. So, and the stadium's 70 something years old. So baseball history really runs deep there, and it's going to be a tough year for a lot of fans saying goodbye to that. And then 2021. Woo Sox.
And one more thing before we move on to the other rebrand that I wanted to bring up. You mentioned how this is going to kind of be an interesting year of, there's one brand that has already been announced and there's one team that will eventually become that brand that still has to play. We went through that this year with the Rocket City Trash Pandas getting announced last year. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Mobile still had to play this year. Is this going to be part of a trend going forward? I mean, this is 2 teams in 2 years. Are we going to see more of this of, hey, let's get up the identity as quickly as we can? Or is this just 2 unique situations?
I think they're both unique situations. I wouldn't go as far to say as a trend. I mean, so much of it has to do with the timeline of stadium construction. So I think a lot of it is when the stadium is far enough along in its construction that there is time to kind of know, okay, this will definitely be ready, like way in time, and there's time to therefore do the branding and get everything else ready. But I think in a lot of cases, this will be more the rarity than the new rule, because I think in general there's just too much to get together to already have a rebranded new team at the same time you're also running one that's in its final season. But every situation's different.
One last thing before we move on from this. I know you were musing about this either on Twitter or maybe we talked about it on the show a couple of weeks ago, but do you know the last time that a team moved locales and did not totally rebrand? They're keeping the same name. Obviously, there's new logos and all that, but they're still going to be the Red Sox. That doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't, but we have another example of that from this offseason. The Potomac Nationals.
True.
Will be the Fredericksburg Nationals.
Maybe that's what we were talking about it for.
That was probably what we were talking about. So, yeah, 2 of the 6 rebrandings we've covered so far, or in a sense about to cover, do involve actually the name not changing, but the location changing as well as the logo and overall aesthetic around the team.
All right, let's move from that one on one end of the minor league rebrand spectrum to the other end, which is the Class A Advanced Fort Myers, formerly Miracle, of the Florida State League. They, going forward in 2020 and beyond, will be known as the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, and there is a character with a baseball bat, so it's a grandiose designed identity. He's calling his shot. He's a muscle with muscles. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's a muscle with muscle, the Mighty Muscles, and you have a muscle with muscles. This was a rebrand that the team did not announce. Usually, and there's no set in stone processes these teams follow, but we're usually used to teams saying they're going to rebrand, maybe announcing finalists, teasing all these different things leading to the unveil, X, Y, and Z. But in this case, the team just on Tuesday morning had a press conference that they had given very little notice of and said, okay, we were the Fort Myers Miracle. Now we are the Mighty Muscles. 2019 was the team's first year under a new ownership group headed by a guy named Andy Kaufman, not to be confused with Andy.
So that's where he went to.
Yeah, exactly. Not to be confused with, the comedian Andy Kaufman. But 2019 was the team's first year under that ownership group, so it's not too surprising maybe that they said, okay, we're under new ownership. We want to do things differently. It's kind of a unique arrangement because this same ownership group also owns the Jacksonville Icemen of the ECHL, a quote-unquote orphan initialism, because it used to stand for East Coast Hockey League and now stands for nothing at all.
Yeah, because it definitely has expanded beyond the East Coast.
Yes. So I got to use orphan initialism. I was glad that whoever edited the story kept that in there. But anyhow, so this is a team that is they're running a hockey team and a baseball team, new ownership. And if you go back to, in the history of the Fort Myers Miracle name that, as of yesterday, as of Tuesday, is no longer with us, that is a name that goes back to the franchise's previous iteration in Miami when they were the Miami Miracle. So while Miami is maybe not particularly far away from Fort Myers, it's not something specific to Fort Myers. So I think they also wanted something a little more specific to Fort Myers. And hey, there's muscles in Fort Myers, both muscles in terms of fit people, people on the beach with very nice toned and beautiful bodies, and also, muscles, the bivalves. the seafood. And so it's a very grandiose type design, these muscular muscles. The primary logo, the muscle looks like he's sort of calling his shot, pointing out into the distance. This team is a Twins facility, so there's an alternate logo. Did I say Twins facility? A Twins affiliate, a Minnesota Twins affiliate. So there's an alternate Mighty Muscles logo that features two muscles like locked in a macho handshake, and that is
like
allegedly. But yeah, it's perhaps inspired by the movie Predator, in which Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers have that.
I was thinking it was a Rocky ending for some reason, but I don't think you're right.
Yeah, I think it's maybe inspired by that Predator handshake. And there's another alternate logo where the mighty muscle in question is sort of peeking out of his shell, of course not shyly, but peeking out of the shell and carrying and triumphantly hoisting a dumbbell that is weighted with baseballs. And the team released a comic book in conjunction with this whole unveil that tells the origin story of the Mighty Muscle. It's just a normal family of muscles, and they got hit by a rogue wave, and Baby Muscle was separated by his family. The family got kidnapped by evil gym rats, and then as Baby Muscle is looking for his family, he finds a treasure chest with a glowing bat that bestows him these powers to be not just Baby Muscle but a Mighty Muscle. So he shows up and tells he gives those gym rats the old what for and saves his family, and now he's I guess he did such a good job saving his family and being a bivalve superhero that now he has his own minor league team named after him, the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles. So there we go, some good alliteration for you.
One of my favorite things.
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I was just going to say, one of my favorite things about this is that the FSL is basically becoming aquatic centric in how many team names there are now based around just sea life. We got the Tampa Tarpons, Charlotte Stone Crabs, Daytona Tortugas, Jupiter Hammerheads, and Clearwater Threshers. Makes you think like the Fire Frogs or the Palm Beach Cardinals, and I know the Cardinals are a Cardinals affiliate, but I almost want complete synergy in this now. Does this ever come from them touching base with FSL clubs and trying to get one theme together? Or?
I would doubt that it is part of like a larger league strategy, but I think like in any number of things, you might see an influence there. One team changes and the other says, "Oh, that's kind of a good direction," and another one does it. So the FSL has become largely aquatic now. And someone pointed out on Twitter to me today, the fire frogs, that species of frog are at least born in the water, the coqui frog. And also, if you look at the state as a whole, I mean, its major league teams are Marlins and Rays, and it's also home to the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. So it's pretty interesting how strongly the state of Florida has gone towards the aquatic in its professional baseball branding, and the Mighty Muscles are very much part of that seafaring or under the sea trend that has really overtaken the Sunshine State.
I am positive that at one time I read a story about the genesis of the Miracle nickname, in which it must have been an apocryphal tale in which, in order to be awarded the franchise ownership or something, somebody said "Oh, we need a Miracle," and then they renamed it. Everything now that I'm reading basically says there was no point to it. It was alliterative. They were at the time the Miami Miracle. But a fun fact, I did not know this, and big thanks to the guys at sportslogos.net. This franchise actually dates all the way back. It can make claims to date all the way back to 1926, and for a long time was known as the Miami Marlins. And evidently, in 1992, after the then Miami Miracle moved and became the Fort Myers Miracle, when the Florida Marlins came into existence, the Miracle filed a lawsuit against the Florida Marlins saying that they never compensated the team for using that nickname, that it was their nickname when they played in Miami. They left. The Florida Marlins came in, just grabbed the nickname. Evidently, the minor league team lost that lawsuit, but one of those weird random visual identity fun facts around baseball, in which there are so many names that are trademarked and claimed. And we talked about this with the Missoula Paddleheads. Like, sometimes teams have to go crazy because there is not a lot out there that does not have a claim on it of some kind.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about that before, and I think it's worth reiterating, especially with Grandiose. You see a lot of chatter on Twitter where, you see name the team finalists or what have you, and most of them are two names, and people are like, "Oh, well, of course, it's two names." or 2 words in the name. It's a grandiose name. And, grandiose does go in that direction more than others. But Tyler, like you said, so much of that is related to trademarking. And I would guess that just being the Muscles, even if they wanted to be just the Muscles, they could not do that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the time when you see these 2 word names, it is to differentiate themselves from other entities that have trademarks that would prevent them from using the name in the first place. So while it does rub people the wrong way, how goofy these names get, and I get it, I would ask that people consider just not that I'm an expert on it, but just think how many things are trademarked and how tough it can be to build an entire brand around something that does not have a pre-existing trademark and copyright attached to it.
So those are the 2 most recent rebrands, and you can check out all of the details on Worcester and Fort Myers at MILB.com. Winter meetings are coming up in San Diego, and there's always so much going on from the biz side. Ben, what do you got going on at the winter meetings this year?
Well, it's a little too TBD in terms of the specifics, but I'll be doing my usual run-through of all the minor league baseball hotspots, the job fair, the trade show, attending various talks, lectures, panels, confabs, that sort of thing. So I don't have a real set in stone thing, but we'll see the winner of the Copa Cup announced this year's best Copa team. So might be able to do something on that. Always looking for interesting people to talk to, or people have interesting stories regarding like why they're at the meetings, trade show, new products or crazy new things that are kind of fun to highlight. And of course, a lot of talking, a lot of maybe off the record conversations, and kind of it's a great opportunity to to be in one place with the entire industry. It only happens but once a year.
It will certainly be an interesting one. There's also one more rebrand, which is coming out later on this week, but we are recording in advance of it. We've touched on it a little bit that it was going to be coming, but Connecticut's got one coming out.
Yeah, that is happening on Thursday afternoon, I believe at 4:30. So probably just a couple hours after this.
Right.
Unless you're really prompt with listening to this podcast, the name is probably out as you are listening to this. But the Connecticut Tigers, or the entity that currently is, but will soon very soon not be the Connecticut Tigers, they have announced 5 names. And, as a callback to our previous conversation, 4 of those name finalists are 2 words. We have the Salty Dogs, the Mill Mule. And first of all, this team is the Connecticut Tigers, but they are going back to using Norwich as the geographical signifier. So it's going to be Norwich no matter what the team name is. 4 of the 5 finalists do have 2 names. They all tie into Norwich city history. But Golden Roses, Mill Mules, Salty Dogs, and Sea Unicorns, and then the lone one-word name, Narwhals. And Narwhals and Sea Unicorns are, for all intents and purposes, very similar. It's just kind of like, hey, which one would you want to call it? But we have Sea Unicorns, Salty Dogs, Narwhals, Mill Mules, and Golden Roses, and we will soon know. We will soon know.
One thing we can say is that it will definitely be from this list.
Yes, we can say that.
There will be no surprises, as there have been in years past. If sometimes they throw out names and it's like, oh, no, we chose to go off brand. It will be one of these 5.
Yes, it will not be the Rocky Mountain. We had never mentioned the Vibes before, but we are now the Vibes. I actually like that name a lot. But, there's sometimes, and that one was actually, well, there's so many tangents we can go through when we're talking about this topic. But anyway, yes, it will be one of those 5 names I mentioned, and all will be revealed very soon. And, of course, I'll have an article on it on MILB.com. It's been a very busy week with these rebrandings, and I'm kind of looking forward to a break from it because we don't have any more on the horizon, certainly in 2019, and then we'll see what 2020 brings. But I'm not even sure if I'm aware for sure of any others coming, and we'll see. We'll just play it by ear as we always do.
So that story is probably up on the site right now, depending on when you were listening to this week's episode of the show. And that'll do it. Benjamin Hill is on Twitter at BensBiz, on Instagram at TheBensBiz. And you can follow all this stuff, read all this stuff at MILB.com/BensBiz. And travel safe. We'll talk to you next week. And we'll hopefully have a lot more fun topics to debate and discuss.
Yeah, sounds good. And as I've mentioned on Twitter recently, I saw Weekend at Bernie's for the first time just last night. So if you want to have any Weekend at Bernie's related discussion with me on Twitter at BensBiz, it's really fresh in my mind, and it's a movie I'd love to talk about. So thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Big thanks to Brennen Davis and to Benjamin Hill for joining the show. Just one more reminder, over 90 teams this year will vie for the Copa de la Diversión Cup in 2020, each with an identity as unique and impactful as its area's Hispanic community. Follow minor league baseball on social media at MILB and visit the Copa website at MILB.com/fans/Copa to find out more about the initiative's newest members and colorful, vibrant identities. Sam, when do you actually head to California for the winter meeting?
I am actually headed out Thursday night. Very excited. We've got a bunch of friends in LA, so I'll be hanging out with them, potentially going to Disneyland and going to
that's fun.
Live a Star War, as it were, on Friday. And then I'll be hanging out with you and Josh, which will be so much fun.
Very excited.
So, yeah, a very fun couple of days. And then winter meetings are always busy. So, yeah, it'll be good to recharge the batteries before that. Just very quickly, while we're talking winter meetings and talking about San Diego, we've gotten some emails about this and people reaching out. One of the big things that is on people's minds these days is the professional baseball agreement between Major League Baseball and minor league baseball. There's been some stories out there. We're not going to address it quite yet, just because it's a negotiation. These are negotiations between two sides. Nothing is firm yet. There have been some reports out there about what could happen. Until something firm actually happens, until there's agreement, and that could be for a little while, we're not going to discuss it on the show, just because it would be discussing something in conjecture and something that might not happen. That's not how negotiations work. Both sides throw out things on either side. Both sides are trying to prove their point. But there have been statements left and right and what have you. But don't worry, when there is actually an agreement and there's something that is concrete and something we can look at that is going to happen, and we know exactly how baseball will unfold in 2021 and moving forward, that we will discuss. But until then, we're not going to talk about the PBA quite on this show, just to sit in rumors and that kind of stuff. So, it's something that might come up next week at the winter meetings. But for now, until there's something solid to talk about, we're going to kind of keep that off to the side and keep our eye on it. When something becomes solid, we'll bring it to you guys to the show the week that it does. And we're looking forward to that, and hopefully it's all good news ahead. But just to keep you guys updated on that, and then, like I said, when news happens, we'll let you know about it for sure.
Well said. And with that, we'll wrap up this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. He's Sam. I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you next week.